Developing right now on Morning News Now, pomp and pressure. Overseas moments ago, President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping sitting down for a state banquet in Beijing as part of their historic two-day summit. The two leaders discussing some of the biggest issues in the superpowers' relationship. While the White House focuses on the war with Iran and trade, Beijing emphasized the conflict over Taiwan.
We had extremely positive and productive conversations and meetings today. All good for the United States and for China. And it was a great honor to be with you.
We'll take you overseas for more on the summit and what's at stake. Also, a stunning twist in a high-profile case that got national attention as Alex Murdaugh's double murder convictions are overturned. More on the ruling by the South Carolina Supreme Court as the state prepares for a new trial in the killings of Murdaugh's wife and son. Plus, sticker shock, more Americans say they are struggling to get by as the price of just about everything keeps rising. A look at the crisis and how it could impact the midterm elections. Plus, the challenges ahead for the new Fed chair set to take over tomorrow. And top of their class, we will take you to the campus of one New York high school that's celebrating a record number of valedictorians for the class of 2026. I didn't even know that was a thing.
That's a lot of valedictorians, yeah. Right? I thought you were supposed to do rock, paper, scissors to settle it in the end. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you for starting your day with us. We're going to begin this Thursday morning in Beijing, where it was a busy first day for President Trump in his highly anticipated meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
The two leaders began their day on the steps of Beijing's Great Hall of the People. That's where President Trump was greeted during a welcome ceremony. They were joined by the U.S. delegation, including some executives of major American companies. The two then stepped inside for a bilateral meeting where the future of Taiwan was front and center. So was Iran, along with trade between the world's biggest economies. Presidents Trump and Xi later took part in a state banquet to end their first day of this two-day high-stakes summit. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, part of the U.S. delegation traveling with the president, and he spoke one-on-one with Nightly News anchor Tom Yamas in an exclusive interview where Tom asked Rubio about his previous comments about the country.
Are you surprised that you're even here in China? As a U.S. Senator, you know you were sanctioned by China because of what you said, talking about China's record when it came to human rights abuses. You have never shied away from that. Do you still feel the same way now that you're in this country?
I mean, the difference is my job now is no longer just to be a senator. My job is a different job. I'm the chief diplomat of the country, and I execute on the president's foreign policy. The second thing I would say is, irrespective of that, even in my time in the Senate, I would always acknowledge that the United States and China have to have a relationship. It's the two largest economies in the world, probably the two most powerful militaries in the world. And I think it's irresponsible for us not to have direct dialogue with them. In areas where we can find mutual cooperation, I think there's probably virtually no problem in the world that we can't solve if we work together on.
Tom also asked the Secretary of State about global conflicts, the war with Iran, and China's relationship with Taiwan. Chinese officials say President Xi warned President Trump that Taiwan was the most important bilateral issue, saying if it was mishandled, the countries would have, quote, clashes or even conflicts. Here's what Rubio had to say about Taiwan.
We hear them when they say this. We always respond by saying anything that would compel or force a change in what we have now would be problematic. And we would certainly, our policies on that have not changed.
Did President Trump raise the issue of Iran with China?
He did, and it was important because the Chinese side said they are not in favor of militarizing the Straits of Hormuz, and they're not in favor of a tolling system. And that's our position.
We'll have analysis shortly with Jonathan Zinn from the Brookings Institution's China Center. But let's check in with NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer. She joins us from Beijing with more. Janice, good morning. Plenty discussed between the two leaders on the first day of this summit. They spent a lot of time together today, including a 2-hour, 15-minute meeting. Both nations released these readouts, each with a different focus. China prioritized Taiwan. America didn't mention it. So walk us through some of the highlights here.
Well, this first day of the summit really did look more about stabilizing the relationship than trying to achieve any big breakthrough. The tone was very warm. Both leaders talked about cooperation and avoiding conflict, but underneath that, we had these same major tensions there. Let's listen first to hear what President Trump had to say about talks today.
We've had a fantastic relationship. We've gotten along. When there were difficulties, we worked it out. I would call you and you would call me, and whenever we had a problem, people don't know, whenever we had a problem, we worked that out very quickly. We're going to have a fantastic future together. Such respect for China, the job you've done. You're a great leader. I say it to everybody. You're a great leader.
Taiwan remains the biggest flashpoint. Xi Jinping reportedly warned that how the U.S. handles Taiwan could determine whether the two countries stay on the stable path they both want or drift towards something else. And so even with all of the red carpets and these optics, the security rivalry is very real. They also talked about Iran. The war in the Middle East has changed the context of this summit. And President Trump wants China's help to an extent in preventing a wider energy or shipping crisis, particularly around the Strait of Hormuz. And on trade, there were signs that both sides may want to limit de-escalation, possibly smaller deals, maybe some tariff relief. But again, there is no sign of this grand bargain or fundamental reset in the relationship. So the main takeaway from day one is that, yes, both sides still see each other as rivals, but they also recognize the cost of letting that get out of control.
So, Janice, we just played there, these leaders being quite gracious to each other, President Trump describing their relationship positively, complimenting the Chinese president. We did, though, also hear Xi Jinping refer to a theory known as the Thucydides trap. This is a theory that was popularized by a Harvard scholar, and it suggests a high risk of war between an emerging and an established power. How significant were those comments? What did he mean by them? What should we know?
I feel like I'm back in poli-sci 101. Xi Jinping's comments about the Thucydides trap mattered because the phrase is essentially a warning about great powers drifting towards war. But in modern terms, it refers to the fears that, a rising China and an established United States could have friction or conflict. It could be a signal that perhaps Xi Jinping thinks they could be entering a more dangerous phase of the relationship, but at the same time, China is wanting to present itself as saying that rivalry is unavoidable, war is certainly, rivalry may not be avoidable, but war certainly is. And I think if there's going to be one takeaway from this summit, it's that these two men of great powers feel that there's more to be gained from having a cooperative and stable relationship than one where they're at odds over everything.
Janice, looking ahead, the two leaders are expected to meet again Friday before President Trump returns to Washington. So what can we expect on the rest of the trip?
Well, they will hold talks again tomorrow. That's when President Trump will go to Zhongnanhai. This is not only the residence of President Xi and some of the top Communist Party officials, but also considered the center of power here in Beijing. So this is yet another part of the itinerary that is very steeped in optics, that President Xi is inviting President Trump to Zhongnanhai. Overall, what we saw today, and with President Trump being so impressed with the reception that he's had, it's been very grand, a lot of red carpets, a lot of warm words. All of this is planned meticulously by the Chinese side. Everything carries a message. Everything has meaning. They wanted to be able to create a visit that would honor President Trump, but also give China the opportunity to have President Trump's ear in order to further China's agenda.
All right, Janice Mackey-Frayer, thank you so much.
Let's now bring in Jonathan Zinn of the Brookings Institution's China Center. He's also a former senior CIA China analyst. Jonathan, good morning. Thank you so much for being back with us today. We appreciate it. So, as we've discussed, we really see this cordial relationship between these two leaders. They actually each described it as the most important relationship in the world, essentially. But then some differences here when it comes to important topics like Taiwan. What are your big takeaways from this first day of the summit?
Yeah, I mean, the rhetoric and just the visuals coming out of it this morning are really quite striking, right? It does not give the overall vibe that this is a relationship between two rival superpowers, right? I think the rhetoric that President Trump has used in particular really underscores the positive tone that he's trying to put forward. And I think from Beijing's perspective, that's exactly what they're looking for. On Taiwan, I don't think it's surprising at all that President Xi leaned heavily into this in their meeting and that this was an important part of the readout for them as well. I think this is a key message that President Xi wants to send to President Trump. He has President Trump on his home turf, and as your colleague indicated, he can set the stage and set the choreography for it. I am struck, though, by the contrast between the two readouts of the initial encounter that they had, where, again, for President Trump, this is very much a trade-first agenda. And for President Xi, it's really focused on Taiwan and even in some of those other global security issues. And I think that's a big part of the play here from the Chinese perspective. They really want to position Xi Jinping and China as being a peer of President Trump and of the United States.
Jonathan, I want to ask you about something we touched on with Janice a moment ago. It's this theory that was referenced by President Xi today centering on a high risk of war between an established power and an emerging power. What should we read into that? The fact that he brought it up, are there any serious concerns?
Yeah, this has been something that's been simmering for a long time. And Xi Jinping has tried to make this kind of play before, right? There is this notion, I think, as your colleague said, if you flash back to political science classes, this notion that a rising power inevitably comes into conflict with an established power. And that's something that's not just true in kind of ancient Greece, which the reference is to, but for somebody like Xi Jinping, who's steeped in Leninist and Marxist ideology, it's really at the core of their ideology, too. This notion that as a communist power catches up to the capitalist powers, which I think is fundamentally how they see the United States still, that there will be more tension and the risk of conflict will go up. Right. And I think what Xi is trying to do and what he's trying to do in the past is trying to lock the U.S. into some kind of phraseology that says we agree that that would be bad. The problem with that is that oftentimes that's a rhetorical trap, right? And I think that's one of the things to look out for in the months ahead, right, is whether or not they're going to say when the U.S. does something that is designed to defend U.S. interests, like, you know, doing another arms sale to Taiwan or supporting our allies like Japan and the Philippines in the region, the Chinese side will then try to use that phraseology and say, oh, you are the ones who are steering us toward conflict, and try to put the moral onus on the U.S. for just doing things that we need to do to defend ourselves and our allies.
Well, Jonathan, I know we still have tomorrow to go, but based on just what you've seen today so far, do you believe this is the beginning of actually a stronger partnership between the U.S. and China? Was a difference made here?
I'm skeptical. I mean, I think the relatively limited area of agreement show that, you know, this isn't really about stability necessarily in the relationship. I think it's more about stalemate, right? I think the two sides have realized last year during the trade war the limits of how far they can push each other on supply chains and on trade wars. There's not really much overlap in the Venn diagram on some of these key security issues, whether it's Taiwan or issues like Iran or Russia, right? And so I think we are in this moment where we're stuck a little bit. I think what's really changed is the vibe and the tone going forward.
Interesting. Jonathan Zinn, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Back in Washington, Senate Republicans narrowly blocked another attempt by Democrats to rein in President Trump's ability to wage war on Iran. Lawmakers voted 50-49 yesterday against a resolution that would have required President Trump to remove U.S. forces from the conflict. That's just 2 votes short of the simple majority needed for it to pass.
It comes as Democratic leaders are seizing on comments President Trump made earlier this week. He said the financial pressure the war is putting on everyday Americans isn't factoring into his pursuit of a settlement.
Donald Trump told a reporter, quote, "I don't think about Americans' financial situations. I don't think of anyone." I repeat, Donald Trump actually said this.
Donald Trump has made clear that he and the Republican Party don't give a damn about the personal finances of the American people. It's an extraordinary admission.
For more, let's bring in NBC News political reporter Megan Leibowitz. Megan, good morning. Clearly, Democrats pouncing there. Vice President J.D. Vance then weighing in on those comments from the president, perhaps trying to do some damage control here. So how is he trying to frame this?
Hey, Joe and Savannah, good morning. Yeah, so yesterday, Vice President J.D. Vance had argued that President Trump's comments had been misrepresented and argued that the Trump administration does care about Americans' finances. Now, this controversy had started earlier this week when President Trump had been asked by a reporter whether Americans' financial situations factor into his decision-making process on coming to a deal with Iran. And he said not even a little bit, arguing that really what was the main focus was that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So yesterday, NBC's Monica Alba had asked Vice President Vance whether he agreed with President Trump that Americans' financial situations should not factor into the decision-making process about a deal with Iran. Take a listen to how he responded.
Well, I don't think the president said that. I think that's a misrepresentation of what the president said. But look, I agree with the president that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. The goal of preventing nuclear proliferation is probably the single most important thing that we can do to keep our people safe for the long term. It's absolutely a worthy goal. But of course, the president and I and the entire team, we care about the American people's financial situations.
Now, this, of course, comes as Americans are still facing those rising gas prices. The national average gas price yesterday stood at $4.51. That is up $1.53 since the war began. And at the same time here, polling has consistently been showing recently that Americans are not satisfied with how the Trump administration is handling the economy. Joe and Savannah.
Megan, let's switch over to that war powers vote we were just talking about. It's actually the 7th time the vote's failed, but the first time lawmakers voted on it since what was this 60-day deadline for President Trump to seek congressional approval to keep the war going passed. How did things play out, and what does this mean? We're going to see what's the impact of this on the actual war.
Yeah, so it failed, but it was pretty narrow. The vote was 49-50. It would have required a simple majority to pass, and one Republican did not ultimately vote. But this was the closest that Democrats have gotten to trying to pass this war powers resolution, which they've tried to pass numerous times before as well. The thing that was interesting about this vote in particular is that yesterday, Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska had joined Democrats' positions and voted in favor of the war powers resolution after having previously voted against it. So she posted her rationale in a post to X where she had pointed in her post to the fact that we are past this 60-day threshold. Now, 60 days is really important here because the 1973 War Powers Resolution had required that the president has to seek congressional authorization after an ongoing conflict hits that 60-day threshold. Now, earlier this month, we did hit that 60-day threshold, and President Trump had made the case to Congress that he did not think that he needed to seek congressional authorization because of this ongoing ceasefire, arguing that hostilities had ended. Now, as you saw in that post from Senator Murkowski, she had written, I will oppose any effort to redefine hostilities and ways that allow the president to wage war indefinitely without seeking congressional approval as outlined by the Constitution. Joe and Savannah.
Megan, let's quickly talk about redistricting. Louisiana state lawmakers have now advanced a new congressional map that would give Republicans an advantage in yet another House district. Real quick, what comes next?
Yeah, so this comes after the Supreme Court had struck down Louisiana's congressional districts, deciding that it was an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. So in terms of what comes next, the state Senate had advanced this, but it still has to get passed by the full state Senate and then by the state House as well. But again, you know, this comes after the Supreme Court had struck down those maps, and that really changed the way that there are more states now, more Republican-led states that are trying to get some of these congressional districts changed now, Joe.
All right, Megan Leibowitz, thank you so much.
Well, in a stunning development in a case that grabbed the nation's attention, disgraced South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh will now get a second trial for the double murder of his wife and son. Just yesterday, the state's high court overturned those convictions because of jury tampering by a court clerk and ordered a new trial. That's after that jury convicted him of the killings back in 2023. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has the details.
It was the case that captivated the nation. Alex Murdaugh getting a new trial. South Carolina's top court tossing out his convictions for the murder of his wife and son, finding shocking jury tampering by then court clerk Becky Hill. Hill, long accused by the defense of trying to cash in with a tell-all book about her role overseeing the jury, denied accusations she tried to influence jurors.
I did not pressure the jury.
But the court, in a unanimous decision, called her behavior disgraceful, saying she wrongly placed her fingers on the scales of justice by telling jurors deliberations shouldn't take long, advising them not to be fooled by evidence from Murdaugh's defense attorneys, and suggesting they watch Murdaugh's body language when he took the stand in his own defense in 2023. Some jurors in disbelief at the court's decision, undoing their verdict.
And I was like, what? Why? The evidence was overwhelming. He was guilty.
Murdaugh's attorneys praising the ruling, saying in a statement, Alec has said from day one that he did not kill his wife and son. We look forward to a new trial. But Murdaugh will not walk free, the disgraced lawyer admitting to stealing from clients and pled guilty to a litany of state and federal financial crimes. Yet he always maintained his innocence for the shooting deaths of his wife and son.
I'm innocent. I would never hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never hurt my son, Pawpaw.
The family's drama and those grisly killings, the subject of multiple series and documentaries.
The law did not pertain to them.
The state vowing to retry Murdaugh for those murders.
When a state believes that it has credible evidence that someone committed a murder and the state wants to pursue those charges, the state has a right to.
Laura Jarrett, NBC News.
All right, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris for more on this case. Misty, good morning. So walk us through the clerk's behavior in this case. We heard a bit of it there, a couple quotes, but what is it that she did, and were you surprised by this decision?
So I had actually listened to the oral arguments on this particular motion back in February, and the court was very strongly signaling that they were going to overturn this conviction. And it was largely based on the comments that Becky Hill made to the jury. Watch his body language, watch his actions, don't be confused by the defense. This shouldn't take long when the jurors went into deliberations. All of that being very highly prejudicial. So the next question is, did it impact the jurors? Did it matter? And the court says this was so intertwined because he took the stand. This was his testimony. This was a largely circumstantial case. So these types of comments could really impact. And not only that, you got to remember, she's the county clerk. She has this air of authority in the courtroom. So that's certainly something. She's an agent of the court to take into consideration.
All right. So new trial. First of all, would you expect the prosecution, since it was successful the first time, to try a similar strategy the second time? And maybe flip for the defense? Do they maybe say, maybe we don't put him on the stand this time?
Certainly, I think that could be something the defense will think about. But the prosecution is actually being forced to pivot to a certain degree because the second part of this decision was limiting the evidence that's going to come in relating to Murdaugh's financial crimes. So trial one, that was a large part of the prosecution's case to prove motive. So whether or not the prosecutors are going to have to take a new tactic or strategy, keep in mind, the case is about a father and a husband who kills his wife and son in cold blood. The jury's going to want to know the why. So how will prosecutors deal with this potential limitation moving forward? We don't know.
So what do you think that means the likelihood is that Murdaugh gets convicted a second time?
Well, this is all anew. This is going to be different evidentiary decisions. This trial could play out very differently. And both sides have the advantage of the perspective of hindsight, right? What went right the first time, what went wrong? Joe, I think you made the point, would Murdaugh take the stand? I think the defense is going to be very, very skeptical about putting him up there again. Many think that might have been one of the reasons why he was convicted. But there's a tremendous amount of evidence for the defense to overcome, and a lot of how they approach the case is going to be shaped by what prosecutors present.
Remind us the financial crimes, how big of a deal that was in the first trial as the judge at that time tried to weigh what would be admissible evidence and what wouldn't, and just how drastically that could change a new trial.
So it was a huge blow to Murdaugh the first time around. The defense tried to keep out any evidence of financial impropriety because the prosecution's theory of the case is that Murdaugh had all of these financial issues, all of these crimes he was committing behind the scenes, and he was about to get found out. So he actually killed his wife and son to distract, to get sympathy, and potentially a financial motive relating to insurance policies and all sorts of other things in that vein. So that was the central issue in the case to tell the jury the why. Well, now he's pled guilty. So the question is, Will the judge let the jury hear that he's pled guilty to those financial crimes? I'm sure the defense would try and keep that out. But on the flip side, if it comes in, would they say, well, yeah, he pled guilty, but he's actually fighting this? Are those tactics that could be used by both sides?
Misty Maris, certainly a talker. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Concern is growing over that deadly hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship. A woman in France is critically ill and now using an artificial lung after contracting the virus. Here in the United States, the CDC is at the medical center in Nebraska now conducting in-depth assessments of the 16 people who are quarantining there. This as more states are now monitoring possible cases of exposure. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez is following the story and has the latest. Raf, good morning.
Hey there. Yeah, 3 people in Kansas are now in the hospital under observation after what authorities there are calling a high-risk exposure to hantavirus. Now, these 3 were not on the cruise ship at the center of the outbreak, but they were traveling overseas when they had this potential encounter with the Andes strain. Now, we do not know at this stage whether any of them are showing symptoms, but officials in Kansas are saying none of them have tested positive, and they are trying to reassure the public there that this remains a very low-risk situation for people in Kansas. There was some good news for Dr. Stephen Kornfeld. He was the doctor who was on that cruise ship from Oregon. He initially tested mildly positive for the hantavirus. He's been in isolation in Nebraska. He is now testing negative, so he is out of that isolation unit. It isn't clear at this stage if he never had the virus and this was some kind of false positive, or else he had the virus, it's now passed through his system, and he is at this point testing negative. He says that he is feeling in good health. Finally, the cruise ship itself continuing to make its way to the Netherlands with 25 crew members and 2 medical staff on board. It's expected to reach the port of Rotterdam on Sunday or Monday, where it will be disinfected and deep clean the crew of that ship, then going through medical procedures in the Netherlands. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Raf, thank you.
It is time now for your Morning News Now weather forecast.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman is tracking the latest. Angie, good morning.
Hey there, good morning. We've got another kind of active day setting up across parts of the plains, specifically as we have this frontal boundary kind of working its way to the east. This is going to bring the potential for some stronger storms, specifically over parts of Kansas. Notice Wichita right in the bullseye of that. A much broader area of some general thunderstorms possible, but those strongest ones could see some hail and some wind gusts. The good news is that tornado risk is on the low end today. That system continues working to the east and brings some rain to the Ohio Valley as we get into your Friday. We'll see some of those late day storms kind of popping up across mid-Mississippi and leaving us once again with that chance for some of the stronger storms that include the hail, the wind gusts, of course, and the tornado risk on the low end. This time, as we look through your Friday, including Kansas City, stretching just to the south of Omaha, and a much broader general thunderstorm risk as well. By the time we get into the weekend, we really start to see things ramping up when it comes to severe weather. This is a look at your Saturday. You can see the tornado risk is there, the winds, the large hail, all of that, including the potential for some flash flooding across parts of the Midwest and the plains. This includes Omaha to Kansas City for Saturday, and an enhanced risk including parts of the same general area here as we get into your Sunday. Again, all of the impacts will be on the table for folks across that region, and it doesn't stop as we get into Monday. We start our next work week from Wichita to Omaha with that enhanced risk, Minneapolis, Chicago, and stretching down to Wichita Falls, all included with those potential impacts, including, again, the tornado risk, the hail, and the wind gusts. Meanwhile, across parts of New England, it's a bit of a soggy morning. We've got some of those showers working essentially from the state of New York up into Maine. We'll see a couple of those kind of impacting that early morning drive for you. This is all part of this slow moving front that's kind of working its way across that region. It leaves the Northeast cool and breezy on the backside of it. So you'll notice that here as you get through your day today. In the meantime, we'll pick up another maybe inch or 2 inches in isolated amounts, upwards of 3 inches of rain across New England. Otherwise, big picture look, the West looks quite nice today. We'll see those severe storms in parts of the middle of the country, and then those cooler highs settle in for parts of the Midwest. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Angie. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, going generic. We're going to tell you about the lower cost alternative to Ozempic now in the works, why experts say we may not see it in the U.S. anytime soon.
Up first, though, more Americans struggling to keep up with the cost of just about everything. How rising prices could play a big role in the midterm elections. Stay with us.
We're back now with a look at how the growing cost of the war with Iran is now impacting Americans' everyday lives. AAA says the average price of a gallon of regular now up to $4.53. Well, Americans are facing a number of rising costs. President Trump made headlines this week when he said the financial situation for Americans is not a concern for him as he tries to negotiate an end to the war. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us now with more on all this. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. The cost of living is on the top of many voters' minds, but the president and Republicans argue the benefits of the war in Iran will outweigh the costs and that Americans will understand. This despite a new poll showing 77% of Americans feel the war is hurting them financially.
This morning, as President Trump takes the world stage, here at home, the political fallout from rising prices for Americans growing. With the war in Iran restricting the world's oil supply and sending gas prices skyrocketing.
Nobody is safe from this.
And with rising inflation. Yesterday's data revealing businesses' costs had their highest monthly surge in more than 4 years. Consumers feeling the pinch at the grocery store, too. While some staples like eggs have actually gone down in cost over the year, others have jumped significantly. Fresh produce prices up 6.5%. And ground beef going up 14.8%. Communities helping each other. Food banks noting an uptick.
We're definitely still seeing more people come out because more people are impacted.
With affordability on voters' minds, Republicans defending comments from President Trump this week, saying Americans' finances are not influencing his decision-making process when it comes to Iran.
I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all.
Republicans saying the remarks were taken out of context, and the president is focused on both the economy and the war.
The president has to confront all these challenges simultaneously.
Obviously, the president could have phrased that way more artfully. I do think he cares.
Allies say when the war ends, prices will tumble.
When we get the Strait of Hormuz reopened, that will alleviate a lot of pressure.
Do you think that's how most Americans feel?
Well, I think that when you look at the cost of groceries still, the cost of gas, it is still expensive to live in the United States, so there's still work to be done.
While Democrats argue it's Trump's policies that led to the skyrocketing prices.
People get into really troublesome territory when they deny the reality that everyday people are experiencing.
And speaking of the economy, yesterday, the Senate voting to confirm Kevin Warsh as the next chair of the Federal Reserve. President Trump was very critical of his predecessor, Jerome Powell, for not lowering interest rates. President Trump believing if those interest rates come down, they also will help move the economy forward. Joe.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Let's continue this conversation with Investopedia's editor-in-chief and the chief business editor of People Inc., Caleb Silver. Let's pick it up right there with what Ryan was talking about. Warsh taking over tomorrow. Has to still tackle this affordability problem. So how do you think he gets his arms around that? Is there anything he brings to the table different from Powell?
Well, he is what we call a little bit more hawkish on policy. He wants a smaller Fed, a less transparent Fed. We're used to hearing forward guidance from the Fed, what everybody thinks about what the next interest rates moves might be. We're probably not going to see that as much from him. And he is going to want a lower, smaller footprint for the Federal Reserve than we've seen really over the last 2 decades. So I would expect to hear less out of the Fed and less sort of cap tipping in terms of where they're going to put interest rates next.
Caleb, yesterday we learned that wholesale prices rose 6% in April. We had you with us earlier this week when we found out that inflation hit 3.8% during that same month. That is well above the Fed's 2% target. You reminded us that that might be a thing of the past just generally here. But you also said it might mean we actually see an interest rate hike this year.
Yeah, well, if you look out into the September meeting, a couple of meetings down the road here, if we continue to see elevated oil prices and elevated inflation, That's one of the only tools the Fed has to actually deal with that. So there won't be lowering rates anytime soon, I don't think, even though that's what we know the president wants. Kevin Warsh hasn't promised that. He's promised to maintain the Fed's independence. That said, he is Trump's pick to lead the Fed, and he'll be in position for the next 4 years at least.
And what type of position will he be in, knowing what President Trump wants, but knowing that might be bad for the economy? What kind of position does that put him in if he doesn't do what the president wants?
A very tricky one, because Jerome Powell was nominated and put into that chair by President Trump, and President Trump did not like his policies going into the end of his last term and certainly through the first couple of years of this term. So he'll be critical if he doesn't get what he wants. That said, people think because he was handpicked by the president to be the next Fed chair, he's been at the Fed before, he was there through the great financial crisis, he may do what the administration wants, but he's ultimately going to be a lot quieter about it.
All right, Caleb Silver, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Coming up, an update on President Trump's historic state visit to China.
Plus, a look at how the country's one-child policy left a lasting impact on its people 1 decade after it ended. You're watching Morning News Now.
We're back with continuing coverage of President Trump's trip to Beijing. Mr. Trump wrapped up the first day of the highly anticipated 2-day summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping with a speech at a state banquet. President Trump was gracious to his host country, thanking Xi for a, quote, magnificent welcome like none other. The president even extended an invite to Xi to visit the White House in September. This caps off a busy first day for the world leaders. It began on the steps of Beijing's Great Hall, where President Trump was greeted with a welcome ceremony. They were joined by a U.S. delegation that included more than a dozen CEOs from top tech and financial companies, really highlighting that business is an important element of this summit. The issues of Taiwan and the war with Iran were also front and center. She warned that mishandling of Taiwan would cause, quote, clashes, even conflicts, putting the entire relationship in great jeopardy. President Trump said the talks were, quote, great, and that China is a great place. Tomorrow will be the final day of the summit.
Staying in China, the country, home to an estimated 1.4 billion people, is facing a new population problem. About a decade ago, the Chinese government ended its one-child policy. It was a strict and at times brutal policy meant to control population growth. Well, years later, it has left a lasting legacy in the country. Now the government is pushing for more marriages and more children. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer takes a look.
Once the world's most populous country, China is no longer growing, hitting its lowest birth rate on record, mainly because fewer young people are getting married. It's not that I don't want to get married, says Ding Ying. It's just life pressure. The reasons for the declines are partly economic, with youth unemployment and housing costs on the rise.
For the wedding ceremony, we have spent a lot of money.
The marriage rate now the worst since the pandemic, when China was locked down. But values around marriage and family have also changed, especially among China's urban women, like Angela He, who's choosing to own a gym and raise a dog instead.
We got more freedom than before. So people can decide what is their life going to be. It's not like a traditional China anymore.
It was only a decade ago that the Communist Party ended the one-child policy that imposed family planning rules to control population. Couples who defied them were punished as unpatriotic, with fines, shaming, even jail. Now caught in a demographic squeeze, China's government is trying to reverse it, giving bonuses to newlyweds, offering marriage vows at spots that look good on social media, and spelling it out in drone shows with diamonds in the sky. To rewire thinking, this university even has a bachelor's degree program in marriage, covering the whole cycle from matchmaking to counseling. In the past, people were more willing to marry and have children to feel secure, says the school's dean. Now they believe they can live well on their own. For the most part, experts doubt the government's campaign will lead to any sort of marriage or baby boom here. The challenge for China remaining strong with a population that's shrinking.
Let's get you some other financial headlines this morning. The price of Ozempic is dropping, just not here in America.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch is here with your Money Minute. Emily, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. While countries around the world are racing to get cheaper versions of weight loss drugs into people's hands, experts say it's going to be a bit before we see those generics here in the States. Canada and India have gotten approvals and others are soon to come. But due to patent protections, the U.S. is not expected to get generic, less expensive forms of semaglutides like Wegovy and Ozempic until the end of 2031. In a statement to NBC News, Wegovy and Ozempic maker Novo Nordisk says, quote, all intellectual property decisions are carefully considered at a global level. Name brand versions of these drugs can cost anywhere from $349 to up to $1,000 a month. And NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang and his wife's charitable foundation has bought more than $100 million in computing time for universities and nonprofits to further AI research and development. The free services come through an agreement with the third-party cloud services provider CoreWeave, deepening long-standing ties between these two AI infrastructure companies. Over on Instagram, Meta is introducing a new tool called Instance. It's designed to be a more private way of sharing candid moments. Users can send photos to whoever they choose. They vanish after they're opened, can't be viewed after 24 hours, and followers aren't able to take a screenshot. The company says Instance will appear in a user's DMs as a pile of photos, and a separate app is available in some locations too. So guys, this is giving me Snapchat vibes.
No kidding.
It's just like, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting how they all kind of end up doing what the other's doing. Instagram doing Reels after TikTok comes. Yeah.
But I'm surprised. Is this what the people want? I mean,
how many different things can you do with a digital photo?
I know.
It is what it is.
But I guess privacy, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a big part here is people are scared of screenshots. They want things to vanish. I mean, who knows? It's still in there somewhere, right?
Certainly a concern, though, for parents, which is, I'm sure, something we'll hear from advocacy groups soon.
Great
after
point.
That announcement. Yeah. All right, Emily, thank you. Thanks. Well, an unlikely collaboration between two very different watch brands has fans lining up on the street. NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo spoke to some of the people counting the seconds until they go on sale.
The industry is making a comeback on the strength of something called a swatch.
It's a new spin on a blast from the past with a big luxury brand upgrade. High-end Swiss watchmaker Audemars Piguet is teaming up with 80s watch icon Swatch for a new line of collectible timepieces called Royal Pop. And pop, they do. 8 different models in bright, bold colors set to go on sale only in select Swatch stores starting Saturday. That is still days away, but already fans are lining up. Luxury watch releases don't usually include people lining up for days waiting to get a chance to buy one, but that's what we have here. It's something way more similar to a sneaker drop or even something very Gen Z like the Labubu.
I've been here since May 11th.
That's several days straight to be here, so you seem like you better get that watch, right?
Man, I better get that watch.
Excitement and opinions are pouring in online.
Love it or hate it, it has definitely caused a stir.
Everyone was waiting 5 days outside of the store for this.
I'm a Swatch lover, and I am gonna go stand outside the store right now, actually.
Swatch has done high-profile collaborations before, including with watch brands Omega and Blancpain. These pocket watches come with a roughly $400 price tag, which may seem steep for essentially a plastic timepiece, but a typical Audemars Piguet can cost tens of thousands of dollars at least.
It is like the ultimate expression of high-low. Audemars Piguet is a very high-up, really well-thought-of, luxury, fancy, very expensive brand, whereas Swatch is much more entry-level, kind of fun, almost tacky, but in a fun way.
Fun these fans are willing to wait for around the clock. Stephen Romo, NBC News, New York.
The camp out boggles my mind.
It is. They really want that watch. Yeah. Now, I want them to get that watch,
yeah, I know,
or I will be very sad for them.
Please, I know, but they're cool though. All right, coming up on Morning News Now, oh, the places they'll go. One high school's graduating class breaking a pretty impressive record.
It's definitely very difficult, especially as the years went on, because that also meant that the classes got harder.
I took Calc BC, and that was one of the most hardest classes I've ever taken.
When we come back, we're going to introduce you to the 21 valedictorians set to share the stage on graduation day. Finally this hour, summer is almost upon us. That means high school graduation season is coming up fast. So this morning we want to take you to one campus on Long Island that has more than a few reasons to celebrate.
Casey Chang from our NBC New York station introduces us to the school's not one, not two, but 21 valedictorians.
21 students at Jericho High School with one shared title, valedictorian.
I think it's so amazing.
A staggering 21 seniors graduating with top honors this year, setting a school record.
An A+ in every class shows a lot of success.
All 21 students pulled off the same extraordinary feat, straight A+ in every class for all 4 years of high school.
AP Economics, AP Physics C, multivariable calculus,
AP Economics, AP Literature, AP Statistics, AP Spanish, and AP Government.
It wasn't easy, but these students were committed to doing their best.
It was definitely very difficult, especially as the years went on, because that also meant that the classes got harder.
I had to Calc BC, and that was one of the most hardest classes I've ever taken in high school, and I was a little concerned about losing it this year.
Harnor Joneja locked in and maintained her average of 97 and above. Being valedictorian usually comes with a speech at graduation, but with 21 of them, that's going to be very difficult this year. Instead, they're going to make a video that they're going to show.
The students are going to be wearing sashes that say valedictorian 2026, so we're trying to create other opportunities to celebrate this incredible accomplishment.
The price for perfection? Missing some social events along the way, but these kids knew they were working for a greater goal.
Despite all the competitiveness, there's still a lot of collaboration, and we're all trying to bring each other up as we go.
And the school wants to recognize those students who went the extra mile, all 4 years at Jericho.
Celebrate as many as we can who's showing that they care about what they're doing.
And their hard work has paid off. All 21 now headed to college to continue chasing academic excellence.
Our thanks to Casey Chang for that report. This is all part of a growing trend across America where more schools are trying to recognize top students who are set to graduate with all A's. Get this, back in 2015, a school in Arlington, Virginia had more than 100 valedictorians, and they all gave a speech.
Good for them and their accomplishments, right? But it's kind of like, you think of it as the one, and then the one gives the speech, but good for them.
I'm glad all 21 aren't giving a speech. You can soak in the moment. That's going to do it for this hour. Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this busy Thursday morning. I'm Savannah Tellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, swank and frank talk, an opulent Beijing banquet closing out day one of that historic summit between Presidents Trump and Xi. Two world powers, America and China, breaking bread among their nation's dignitaries earlier, each showering the other in praise and touting the strength of their bilateral bond. But a few key clashes on hot-button issues like Taiwan remain.
We had extremely positive and productive conversations and meetings today.
We must make it work and never mess it up. Both China and the United States stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. Our two countries should be partners rather than rivals.
The big takeaway so far, what we're expecting from the rest of the trip, and where America's relationship with China could go from here. Also this morning, hantavirus fears spreading across several states. Officials in Kansas revealing 3 more people now under medical observation after possibly being exposed to a passenger on that infected cruise ship. Well, in Nebraska, CDC staffers on the hunt for answers from those 16 Americans still quarantined. We've got the latest in a moment. Plus, a legal stunner out of South Carolina. The state Supreme Court overturning the murder convictions against disgraced attorney Alex Murdaugh. What was behind the shocking decision, and what comes next in a true crime case that is still captivating the country. And changing course later in the hour, why America's final frontier future now seems to be focused more on the moon rather than Mars. Are the Trump administration's red planet priorities destined to drift off into the unknown? All right.
Space conversation.
There you go. Let's begin this hour with President Trump's historic second state visit to China.
Yeah, it was an eventful first day of this summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The day began with a red carpet welcome ceremony for President Trump as he arrived. And then the two leaders met behind closed doors and discussed many hot button issues like trade, tariffs, the war with Iran, and the future of Taiwan. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Garrett Hake is traveling with the president. He has the latest for us from Beijing. Garrett, good morning.
This two-day summit getting underway today with an elaborate mix of pageantry and politics. The Chinese rolling out a literal red carpet for President Trump, but also greeting him with a warning about the risk of future conflict over Taiwan, the self-governing island China says is an inseparable part of this nation. But both countries ultimately speaking positively about progress made today in improving the delicate relationship between the world's two superpowers. President Trump, the guest of honor at a lavish state dinner at China's Great Hall of the People in the heart of Beijing. The president toasted by Chinese President Xi Jinping and joined by family, staff, and more than a dozen of the United States' most prominent business leaders, including ally Elon Musk and the heads of Apple and NVIDIA.
It's a very special relationship, and I want to thank you again.
The dinner capping off a day of carefully choreographed ceremony and closed-door meetings, beginning with the president's arrival in Tiananmen Square and his friendly greeting with President Xi, followed by the performance of both nations' national anthems and an artillery salute. The two leaders inspecting a military honor guard. President Trump visibly charmed by hundreds of Chinese school children there to greet him. For the Chinese, all that pageantry aligns with the politics. Their goal, to present an image of stability, control, and reliability to the world. Reporters given only a glimpse of the summit itself, with President Xi setting the stakes, calling a stable relationship between the two nations, quote, good for the world, adding later that the U.S. and China should be partners, not rivals. President Trump playing up his personal relationship with Xi, showering the autocratic leader with praise.
Such respect for China. You're a great leader. Sometimes people don't like me saying it, but I say it anyway because it's true. I only say the truth.
In private, Xi warning Trump that the most important bilateral issue to China is Taiwan, adding that if it's mishandled, the two countries will have clashes or even conflicts, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in an exclusive interview with NBC's Tom Yamas, asked about it.
We always respond by saying anything that would compel or force a change in what we have now would be problematic. And we would certainly, our policies on that have not changed.
The two leaders also discussing trade and the wars in Ukraine and Iran, where the White House hopes China can use its leverage as Iran's biggest oil buyer to help bring the conflict to a close.
Did President Trump raise the issue of Iran with China?
He did, and it was important because the Chinese side said they are not in favor of militarizing the Straits of Hormuz, and they're not in favor of a tolling system. And that's our position.
President Trump posted on his way to China that opening up the market here would be his #1 ask of President Xi. And so far, we've heard generally positive language about trade, but no specific announcements. President Xi told Trump that China would only open its doors wider to U.S. businesses going forward. And in an interview this morning, the Treasury Secretary said President Trump pitched the Chinese on buying more oil and gas from the U.S. and predicted we would see large orders of Boeing aircraft coming soon, but there have been no announcements yet.
All right, Garrett, thank you.
For more analysis, let's bring in Semaphor's China columnist, Andy Brown. Andy, good to have you with us. We saw some signs of a positive attitude shift between the two leaders, but also some potential warning signs. So what stood out to you from day one of the summit?
Yeah, we should make it work and never mess it up. I thought that was an interesting choice of words from Xi Jinping. Look, the vibes are good. I thought it was interesting that both Trump and Xi sought to resurrect the language, the imagery, the sentiment of a much earlier and far more optimistic period of U.S.-China relations. So before he arrives in Beijing, Trump posts on social media that he hopes that China will open up its markets and allow the CEOs that are traveling with him to work their magic. And Xi actually echoes that language when he meets with the CEOs, and Trump introduces him to them one by one. And actually, she goes further than that. He goes all the way back to ping pong diplomacy, which of course preceded the opening to China when Nixon went in 1972 with Henry Kissinger, which of course led to the normalization of relations in 1979. So yes, good vibes, a very good start to this summit, and of course remembering that these summits are set up to succeed.
Good vibes. I like the headline, Andy. You've been writing, of course, about this a bunch, but also specifically about the view from the rest of the region watching this summit play out. This was super interesting to me. You wrote, quote, "If there's one thing that Asia Pacific economies fear more than a U.S.-China showdown, it's the opposite, a world in which the superpowers clubbed together." Explain that. Why is that something that would cause anxiety among U.S. allies or just other countries in the region?
When the superpowers get together, when the leaders of the United States and China get together, by definition, they discuss global issues of trade, technology, security that impinge on the interests of smaller powers. And smaller countries always worry that these two nations will make decisions over their heads. And this time around, there was particular concern about what Trump might give away on Taiwan. But remember, even though most countries in the region have a large and flourishing trade relationship with China, China puts a lot of pressure on them economically, on the security side, militarily. It intimidates Taiwan, it intimidates Japan and South Korea. Its goal is regional hegemony, and it's in a competition with the United States now to be a leader in the region.
You've also written that the bar is pretty low for success here, but that there are some significant barriers standing in the way of a real cultural opening between the U.S. and China. You also noted a summit like this pretty tightly controlled. So with that in mind, can a summit like this perhaps be the start of trying to build some sort of stronger relationship?
I think the goal is not necessarily to build a stronger relationship. It's to make sure that the relationship doesn't get any worse. There is a complete absence of trust between these two countries. You have to remember that they are rivals ultimately, and the way they the arena in which they're competing is in technology. Powerful technologies are now coming of age, AI, quantum, and so on, and both sides want to dominate. And it's a structural, fundamental, competitive relationship. So what we're seeing in Beijing is really an acknowledgement of that, but an attempt to make sure that competition doesn't spiral out of control. And Taiwan is a very, very important part of that. I thought it was interesting with Xi. He flips, he gets serious, and he warns very directly, bluntly, unambiguously, this is a dangerous situation. If you go over our red lines, we could have a clash. That was the hard moment that I thought came out of this meeting, which was otherwise full of great vibes.
Yeah, certainly that is the big headline here today. Andy Brown, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you were great. Thank you. There are new concerns this morning over that deadly hantavirus outbreak. Officials in Kansas say 3 people there with high-risk exposure, they're calling it, have been transferred to a local hospital where they will be monitored. Meanwhile, the CDC is on the ground in Nebraska for in-depth assessments of 16 people who are quarantining after they were all exposed on that ill-fated cruise ship. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is in Omaha outside the University of Nebraska Medical Center where those patients are, and she's got the latest. Maggie, good morning.
Hey there. CDC staffers on the ground here stressing they are in touch with state health officials coast to coast, a point all the more pertinent now with those 3 people in Kansas now being monitored at a Kansas City hospital. At the same time this morning, some encouraging news for one of the 16 Americans quarantining here. This morning, new hantavirus fears in Kansas, where state health officials say 3 people with a high-risk exposure to an infected cruise passenger have now been transferred to a Kansas City hospital for observation. Officials say the trio were not on the ship themselves, adding the encounter happened abroad. They're not saying whether the 3 are exhibiting symptoms, but stress there are no confirmed cases in Kansas, adding the risk to the general public from the Andes virus remains extremely low. Meanwhile, CDC staffers on the ground in Omaha interviewing the 16 quarantined Americans about their exposure to confirmed cases.
I'm here to be monitored closely, and this is a very secure facility.
And some good news this morning for Dr. Stephen Kornfeld, who initially tested positive on the ship. Health officials now say after further testing, he's been cleared from the hospital's highly restrictive biocontainment unit and moved to its quarantine space.
98.6. Now I have to put on my mask so I can show the nurses.
Regular temperature and symptom checks also underway, a process documented by passenger Jake Rosemarin on social media.
Okay, so I just got a bunch of my packages delivered.
Rosemarin also showing this care package delivery from loved ones.
Oh, wow. Okay, there's a lot of snacks here.
Worldwide, health officials are tracking 11 reported hantavirus cases and 3 deaths. In the U.S., 16 states are monitoring residents who have potentially been exposed. The CDC says they're encouraging the 18 American cruise ship passengers now quarantining in Omaha and Atlanta to stay in these facilities for the virus's full 6-week incubation period. Local officials adding,
if circumstances don't allow for that, we'll have each of those individual conversations. No one is asking to leave today.
So on that topic, if someone wanted to leave early, what exactly would happen here is unclear. The CDC yesterday being really specific with their verbiage, saying repeatedly that they're really encouraging people to stay here for the full 6-week incubation period. I actually asked during yesterday's press briefing, what if someone wants to leave? Is there any version of you keeping them here? And the CDC staffer responded, we are really encouraging them to stay. Later pointing out there are no federal or state restrictions requiring people isolate like we saw during COVID. So it's definitely a fine line. Back to you.
Certainly. All right, Maggie, thank you.
A stunning new development in a high-profile double murder case. Disgraced South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh will get a new trial. The state Supreme Court overturned his conviction yesterday. It cited jury tampering by Becky Hill, who was the court clerk at the time. Back in 2023, a jury found Murdaugh guilty of murdering his wife and son. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has the latest. Laura, good morning.
Hey there. This case was full of so many twists and turns from the very beginning, but now, more than 3 years after a jury convicted Alex Murdaugh of murdering his wife and son, he could soon face a new jury starting all over from scratch. This morning, prosecutors in South Carolina vowing to retry Alex Murdaugh after that stunning court decision tossing out his convictions for the 2021 murders of his wife and son.
Dust yourself off, you get back up, you take a fresh look at it, and then you go do your job.
South Carolina Supreme Court finding Murdaugh's right to a fair trial was violated due to what the justices called shocking jury tampering from then court clerk Becky Hill. Hill, long accused by the defense of trying to cash in with a tell-all book about her role overseeing the jury, has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing.
I did not pressure the jury.
But the high court unpersuaded, calling her behavior breathtaking and disgraceful in a blistering decision, finding she told jurors not to be fooled by evidence from Murdaugh's defense attorneys, and advised the jury to watch his body language when Murdaugh took the stand in his own defense in 2023.
I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my son, Pawpaw.
The juror who originally raised concerns about the clerk reacting to the new decision.
I wasn't shocked. I felt like justice wasn't served. He didn't get a fair trial.
Other jurors in disbelief.
The evidence was overwhelming. He was guilty.
Murdaugh's attorneys praising the court's decision, saying in a statement, Alex has said from day one that he did not kill his wife and son. We look forward to a new trial. But Murdaugh will not walk free, admitting to stealing from clients and pleading guilty to multiple state and federal financial crimes. Yet he's always maintained his innocence for the shooting deaths of his wife and son. The family tragedy prompting multiple docuseries. Still, prosecutors undeterred by all the attention the case has garnered.
When the state has what it believes to be credible evidence that somebody committed a murder, we are duty-bound to try the case.
South Carolina's Attorney General also telling me unless something changes here, he intends to pursue a speedy retrial. But prosecutors will have to take a slightly different approach. The state Supreme Court decision, they cautioned that the prosecutors went too far afield with evidence of Murdaugh's financial misdeeds in that first trial in order to prove a motive for the murders, saying that should not be allowed this next time around. Back to you guys.
All right, Laura, thank you.
Well, following the decision from the state Supreme Court, Alex Murdaugh's defense team said that it, quote, affirms that the rule of law remains strong in South Carolina. And earlier this morning, the attorneys who lead Murdaugh's defense team joined our friends at the Today Show to discuss this ruling. They now say they're looking forward to the new trial.
We had told him that the argument went very, very well. We were very hopeful in the result. He didn't believe that it could be possible. And then yesterday, he was very gracious, thankful. And he said, Jim, I'm seeing it, I'm reading it, and it's still hard to believe. But he's glad to get that moniker off of him as a convicted murderer of his wife and son. No doubt about that.
Dick, you said a few months ago when you were here, you said that you were confident that he would have, quote, a fair shot at acquittal if there was a retrial. What makes both of you so confident?
Well, I think that everyone says, well, the jury convicted him so quickly, evidence was overwhelming. If you take away all those financial crime, prejudicial, victims testifying, the Supreme Court talked about that yesterday. You've got no forensic evidence, no fingerprints, no eyewitness, no confession, no video. The only thing they have is this, he lied about where he was.
The Snapchat video.
Right. Other than that, the motive is paper thin.
We do have information that's been provided to us.
Since the trial.
Since the trial. And there are, frankly, a lot of people out there who believe in Alex's innocence, who continue to work and provide us information. But
what kind of information?
Well, potential third parties and potential motives. And we can't disclose it here right now and don't intend to.
Can you characterize the nature of it? I mean, are we talking text messages? Are we talking...
I can't characterize the nature of it, Craig. But I will tell you this, on a retrial, the statistics are in the favor of a defendant because you have a lot more recorded testimony of witnesses. You get to impeach them with inconsistencies, and so it'll be a totally different trial, I promise you.
Our thanks to the Today Show for bringing us that interview. And one of those attorneys also doubled down on the statement that he thinks a retrial with a fair jury gives Murdaugh a chance at acquittal. You can see much more on the Murdaugh case in a 2-hour Dateline special. That's going to be this Friday on NBC.
We're getting a first look at scenes from a daring water rescue that took place off the Florida coast.
A team of emergency responders jumped into action after a small plane crashed yesterday, stranding nearly a dozen people at sea for hours. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock is here with more on the rescue the military is calling miraculous. Sam, good morning.
Miraculous, guys. Good morning. Because after their plane went down in the Atlantic Ocean, 11 adults from the Bahamas were literally left stranded at sea, clinging to a raft for almost 5 hours. An Air Force search and rescue team that just happened to be running a training mission in the area helped to rescue them after the plane sent out this distress signal right before crashing into the ocean. The improbable outcome, all 11 folks were saved, and the entire rescue was captured on video. This dramatic rescue scene playing out 80 miles off Florida's east coast. A group of Bahamian passengers stranded in a small orange raft in the middle of the vast Atlantic Ocean for 5 hours before the 920th Rescue Wing swooped in with a basket and a lifeline.
And you could tell just by looking at them that, they were in distress physically, mentally, and emotionally.
The Coast Guard said their small plane, a twin-engine turboprop, left from Marsh Harbor in the Bahamas Tuesday, headed for Freeport, when the aircraft suddenly experienced engine failure, sending out a distress signal before plunging into the water.
I've not known anyone to survive ditching in the ocean. I mean, for all those people to survive is pretty miraculous.
The Air Force, running a training mission at the same time, was flagged to a possible downed plane, eventually teaming up with the Coast Guard and Space Force.
So we're working with our pararescue team in the back, heading out, developing a plan of how we're going to insert everyone and also how we're going to extract everyone and bring everyone home.
After tossing down a bundle with food, water, and 2 extra rafts, the pararescuemen jumped into the water and swam to the survivors, examining them for injuries before hoisting them all to safety.
They didn't even know that we were coming until we were directly overhead. So you have to imagine the emotional injuries that they were sustained out there and not knowing if someone's going to rescue them. But, that's our job.
Yeah, just the uncertainty. They had no idea when or if someone was coming, guys. Captain Whipple says that the rescuers had only a few minutes of jet fuel left. They were battling thunderstorms out there, but somehow managed to rescue everyone. The victims were taken to Melbourne, Florida for care, and according to the Coast Guard, everyone right now is in stable condition. The cause of that crash is now under investigation. They had 5 minutes until their bingo time for fuel, which means within 5 minutes, if they don't get out of there, there's a risk that the aircraft could lose all of its fuel and power. So pretty remarkable circumstances.
I look forward to the book and then the movie. So,
no kidding. Right. Amazing. Thanks, Sam. Jinx. Let's get a check now. Every Morning News Now weather.
Angie Lastman has the forecast. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hey there, good morning. We've got another kind of active day setting up across parts of the plains, specifically as we have this frontal boundary kind of working its way to the east. This is going to bring the potential for some stronger storms, specifically over parts of Kansas. Notice Wichita right in the bullseye of that. A much broader area of some general thunderstorms possible, but those strongest ones could see some hail and some wind gusts. The good news is that tornado risk is on the low end today. That system continues working to the east and brings some rain to the Ohio Valley as we get into your Friday. We'll see some of those late day storms kind of popping up across mid-Mississippi and leaving us once again with that chance for some of the stronger storms that include the hail, the wind gusts, of course, and the tornado risk on the low end. This time, as we look through your Friday, including Kansas City, stretching just to the south of Omaha, and a much broader general thunderstorm risk as well. By the time we get into the weekend, we really start to see things ramping up when it comes to severe weather. This is a look at your Saturday. You can see the tornado risk is there, the winds, the large hail, all of that, including the potential for some flash flooding across parts of the Midwest and the plains. This includes Omaha to Kansas City for Saturday, and an enhanced risk including parts of the same general area here as we get into your Sunday. Again, all of the impacts will be on the table for folks across that region, and it doesn't stop as we get into Monday. We start our next work week from Wichita to Omaha with that enhanced risk, Minneapolis, Chicago, and stretching down to Wichita Falls, all included with those potential impacts, including, again, the tornado risk, the hail, and the wind gusts. Meanwhile, across parts of New England, it's a bit of a soggy morning. We've got some of those showers working essentially from the state of New York up into Maine. We'll see a couple of those kind of impacting that early morning drive for you. This is all part of this slow-moving front that's kind of working its way across that region. It leaves the Northeast cool and breezy on the backside of it, so you'll notice that here as you get through your day today. In the meantime, we'll pick up another maybe inch or 2 inches in isolated amounts, upwards of 3 inches of rain across New England. Otherwise, big picture look, the West looks quite nice today. We'll see those severe storms in parts of the middle of the country, and then those cooler highs settle in for parts of the Midwest. Back to you.
All right, Angie, thank you. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, going generic. We'll tell you about the lower cost alternative to Ozempic now in the works, why experts say we may not see it in the U.S. anytime soon.
But first, though, feeling the pinch, more Americans struggling to keep up with the cost of just about everything. How rising prices could play a big role in the midterm election. Stay with us.
We're back now with a look at how the growing cost of the war with Iran is now impacting Americans' everyday lives. AAA says the average price of a gallon of regular now up to $4.53. Well, Americans are facing a number of rising costs. President Trump made headlines this week when he said the financial situation for Americans is not a concern for him as he tries to negotiate an end to the war. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us now with more on all this. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. The cost of living is on the top of many voters' minds, but the president and Republicans argue the benefits of the war in Iran will outweigh the costs and that Americans will understand. This despite a new poll showing 77% of Americans feel the war is hurting them financially.
This morning, as President Trump takes the world stage, here at home, the political fallout from rising prices for Americans growing. With the war in Iran restricting the world's oil supply and sending gas prices skyrocketing.
Nobody is safe from this.
And with rising inflation. Yesterday's data revealing businesses' costs had their highest monthly surge in more than 4 years. Consumers feeling the pinch at the grocery store, too. While some staples like eggs have actually gone down in cost over the year, others have jumped significantly. Fresh produce prices up 6.5%. And ground beef going up 14.8%. Communities helping each other. Food banks noting an uptick.
We're definitely still seeing more people come out because more people are impacted.
With affordability on voters' minds, Republicans defending comments from President Trump this week, saying Americans' finances are not influencing his decision-making process when it comes to Iran.
I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all.
Republicans saying the remarks were taken out of context, and the president is focused on both the economy and the war.
The president has to confront all these challenges simultaneously.
Obviously, the president could have phrased that way more artfully. I do think he cares.
Allies say when the war ends, prices will tumble.
When we get the Strait of Hormuz reopened, that will alleviate a lot of pressure.
Do you think that's how most Americans feel?
Well, I think that when you look at the cost of groceries still, the cost of gas, it is still expensive to live in the United States. So there's still work to be done.
While Democrats argue it's Trump's policies that led to the skyrocketing prices.
People get into really troublesome territory when they deny the reality that everyday people are experiencing.
And speaking of the economy, yesterday, the Senate voting to confirm Kevin Warsh as the next chair of the Federal Reserve. President Trump was very critical of his predecessor, Jerome Powell, for not lowering interest rates. President Trump believing if those interest rates come down, they also will help move the economy forward. Joe.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Let's continue this conversation with Investopedia's editor-in-chief and the chief business editor of People Inc., Caleb Silver. Let's pick it up right there with what Ryan was talking about. Warsh taking over tomorrow. Has to still tackle this affordability problem. So how do you think he gets his arms around that? Is there anything he brings to the table different from Powell?
Well, he is what we call a little bit more hawkish on policy. He wants a smaller Fed, a less transparent Fed. We're used to hearing forward guidance from the Fed, what everybody thinks about what the next interest rates moves might be. We're probably not going to see that as much from him. And he is going to want a lower, smaller footprint for the Federal Reserve than we've seen really over the last 2 decades. So I would expect to hear less out of the Fed and less sort of cap tipping in terms of where they're going to put interest rates next.
Caleb, yesterday we learned that wholesale prices rose 6% in April. We had you with us earlier this week when we found out that inflation hit 3.8% during that same month. That is well above the Fed's 2% target. You reminded us that that might be a thing of the past just generally here. But you also said it might mean we actually see an interest rate hike this year.
Yeah, well, if you look out into the September meeting, a couple of meetings down the road here, if we continue to see elevated oil prices and elevated inflation, that's one of the only tools the Fed has to actually deal with that. So there won't be lowering rates anytime soon, I don't think, even though that's what we know the president wants. Kevin Warsh hasn't promised that. He's promised to maintain the Fed's independence. That said, he is Trump's pick to lead the Fed, and he'll be in position for the next 4 years at least.
And what type of position will he be in, knowing what President Trump wants, but knowing that might be bad for the economy? What kind of position does that put him in if he doesn't do what the president wants?
A very tricky one, because Jerome Powell was nominated and put into that chair by President Trump, and President Trump did not like his policies going into the end of his last term and certainly through the first couple of years of this term. So he'll be critical if he doesn't get what he wants. That said, people think because he was handpicked by the president to be the next Fed chair, he's been at the Fed before, he was there through the great financial crisis, he may do what the administration wants, but he's ultimately going to be a lot quieter about it.
All right, Caleb Silver, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Coming up, an update on President Trump's historic state visit to China.
Plus, a look at how the country's one-child policy left a lasting impact on its people 1 decade after it ended. You're watching Morning News Now.
We're back with continuing coverage of President Trump's trip to Beijing. Mr. Trump wrapped up the first day of the highly anticipated 2-day summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping with a speech at a state banquet. President Trump was gracious to his host country, thanking Xi for a, quote, magnificent welcome like none other. The president even extended an invite to Xi to visit the White House in September. This caps off a busy first day for the world leaders. It began on the steps of Beijing's Great Hall, where President Trump was greeted with a welcome ceremony. They were joined by a U.S. delegation that included more than a dozen CEOs from top tech and financial companies, really highlighting that business is an important element of this summit. The issues of Taiwan and the war with Iran were also front and center. She warned that mishandling of Taiwan would cause, quote, clashes, even conflicts, putting the entire relationship in great jeopardy. President Trump said the talks were, quote, great, and that China is a great place. Tomorrow will be the final day of the summit.
Staying in China, the country, home to an estimated 1.4 billion people, is facing a new population problem. About a decade ago, the Chinese government ended its one-child policy. It was a strict and at times brutal policy meant to control population growth. Well, years later, it has left a lasting legacy in the country. Now the government is pushing for more marriages and more children. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Freyer takes a look.
Once the world's most populous country, China is no longer growing, hitting its lowest birth rate on record, mainly because fewer young people are getting married. It's not that I don't want to get married, says Ding Ying. It's just life pressure. The reasons for the declines are partly economic, with youth unemployment and housing costs on the rise.
For the wedding ceremony, we have spent a lot of money.
The marriage rate now the worst since the pandemic, when China was locked down. But values around marriage and family have also changed, especially among China's urban women, like Angela He, who's choosing to own a gym and raise a dog instead.
We got more freedom than before, so people can decide what is their life gonna be. It's not like a traditional China anymore.
It was only a decade ago that the Communist Party ended the one-child policy that imposed family planning rules to control population. Couples who defied them were punished as unpatriotic, with fines, shaming, even jail. Now caught in a demographic squeeze, China's government is trying to reverse it, giving bonuses to newlyweds, offering marriage vows at spots that look good on social media, and spelling it out in drone shows with diamonds in the sky. To rewire thinking, this university even has a bachelor's degree program in marriage, covering the whole cycle from matchmaking to counseling. In the past, people were more willing to marry and have children to feel secure, says the school's dean. Now they believe they can live well on their own. For the most part, experts doubt the government's campaign will lead to any sort of marriage or baby boom here. The challenge for China remaining strong with a population that's shrinking.
Our thanks to Janice for that report.
All right, coming up, is America's fascination with Mars fizzling out?
After the break, why the Trump administration seems poised to place missions to the Red Planet on the back burner for now, and what the future might hold for space exploration here in the U.S. That's next.
Welcome back. Princess Kate has been welcomed by large crowds on the second day of her visit to Italy. The Princess of Wales joined preschoolers for outdoor play and hands-on learning activities. It's all part of her mission to showcase the best early years teaching. NBC News International correspondent Molly Hunter joins us now from northern Italy with more. Molly, good morning.
Savannah, buongiorno. Good morning to you. That's right. It was another exciting day, day 2 of Kate's big trip here to northern Italy. And she's diving in, as you mentioned, to those early childhood educations that this city, Reggio Emilia, is known for. And also this morning, it's hard to believe right now, it was pouring rain and the crowds were still lining the streets. Take a look.
This morning, the Princess of Wales meeting with the littlest, most enthusiastic beneficiaries of the programs she's here learning about. Spending time at the Salvador Allende preschool here in Reggio Emilia, a forest school where nature is at the center of the school's design. From there, a visit to what they're calling a creative recycling center, which provides, in part, artistic materials to the city's preschools.
There is so much excitement here for Kate's arrival, especially way down here.
And at every stop in this small northern Italian city, royal fans trying to catch a glimpse.
It's a wonderful day. It's a dream for me.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
Did you take any selfies?
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, can I see them?
Kate's trip here, a fact-finding mission. Rolling up her sleeves, cracking jokes, and taking the time to really connect. To understand from the people involved more about the renowned Reggio Emilia approach to early childhood education.
Putting children and childhood at the heart of the community, and I'm really fascinated to learn more about it.
According to Kensington Palace, the princess was the driving force behind this trip.
I've been meaning to come for quite some time.
And wherever she goes, welcoming fans, lining the streets.
Thank you for coming. It's so grateful. I felt very emotional driving in, seeing everyone.
Even hanging out the windows. The Kate effect in full force.
Her popularity here in Italy is incredible. She really is the best placed member of the royal family right now.
Kensington Palace stressing this is just the beginning of her next chapter. She's thinking big, thinking globally, which means fans around the world are in luck.
Fans around the world are excited. Those of us who follow Kate and royal news are pretty excited as well. Savannah, this afternoon, Kate is actually out in the countryside cooking with a group of women at an agroturismo, a restaurant and a farm. The press, unfortunately, didn't catch an invite to that, but I'm sure we'll be able to find a good meal around here.
Yeah, there's pasta can't be far. Molly Hunter, thank you so much.
Now to a dramatic shift in the U.S. space exploration agenda. Mars used to be a top priority for NASA, for SpaceX, and the federal government. President Trump even promised in his inauguration speech last year to, quote, plant the stars and stripes on planet Mars.
Now the White House is changing course, though. In a recent budget proposals, it suggested canceling some missions to the Red Planet. It comes as the Trump administration tries to cut back science spending and shifts focus to returning to the moon.
NBC News science reporter Denise Chow has been looking into this issue and joins us now. Denise, good to have you with us. So we still have 5 missions to Mars, which is, I guess, something better than nothing. But what is with this shift that we're seeing here?
Yeah, it's really hard to downplay the dramatic shift that we're seeing because for the past 30 years, certainly as long as I've been covering space, Mars has been the focus of exploration goals for NASA. And what we're seeing is kind of a couple different things. Right now, the U.S. is locked in this new space race with China. We're fresh on the heels of the Artemis 2 mission. There's a lot of momentum to return to the moon. And NASA is essentially racing China back to the moon. And so that's kind of creating this all-in approach on the moon and shifting focus a little bit away from Mars, or at least prolonging those goals to send astronauts to Mars. The second is, as Savannah mentioned, the budget environment that we're in. NASA is operating essentially on a flat budget, but we've seen back-to-back presidential budget requests that have really proposed slashing NASA's budget, and a lot of that coming from the science division. And that means canceling or abandoning some of the missions that we have planned.
NASA established this Mars exploration program actually back in 1993, and it included stuff our viewers probably remember hearing about, bringing Martian rocks back to Earth to study. There's this rover carrying these rocks. It's called Perseverance. It's been there since 2021. What does that mean happens to that mission? So
essentially, the NASA funding package that was passed this year effectively killed it, at least in its current form. So this was something that had been planned for years. It was a very elaborate multi-step mission that required several different spacecraft to bring the rocks that had been collected by the Perseverance rover back to Earth. And it had an inflated budget over the years. It grew from less than $3 billion to over $11 billion. That really kicked the can down from 2030s into the 2040s. Wow. And so we effectively have abandoned that. It could be revived somehow in some commercial partnership with NASA, but as we're seeing, SpaceX and Elon Musk are also signaling that they're focused more on the moon right now rather than Mars.
Let's talk about Elon Musk, because remember, he wanted to colonize Mars, and now earlier in February, he talked more about focusing on a self-growing city on the moon.
Right. Yes, I mean, that was a bombshell post on X. For anyone who has been following him, I mean, like you said, this is the man who has started SpaceX to go to Mars. He has been drumbeat saying we need to occupy Mars. And so that is a really big shift. And I think, you know, if you're to read the tea leaves a little bit, I mean, it's in his interest to align his business with what NASA is doing. If NASA is going all in on the moon, it makes sense. He's such a big partner and contractor for Mars. It makes sense for him to shift those priorities as well.
Do you think other countries step up to fill this void of Mars exploration?
Well, among the allies that NASA partners with, it's pretty hard to compare their budget with what NASA is working with. But at the same time, we are seeing signals from, for instance, the European Space Agency, where they're saying, look, if you're going to cancel your partnership in the Rosalind Franklin rover, or if you're not going to do Mars sample return, we're going to explore other options on our own.
Big picture, why does exploring Mars matter so much?
Well, it's really been something that has captivated the science community. And a lot of the scientists that I talk to say that this is the singular goal for solar system exploration, because there is this continuous geological history locked up in Mars rocks that dates back 4.5 billion years. These are things that could help us understand our place in the solar system, Mars's place in the solar system, and really why our planet has life when others don't seem to at the moment. And so it really is just a really fascinating part of understanding our place in the universe.
Okay, we're going to Mars.
Yeah.
Let's get going on it. We'll start working on
it.
All right, Denise, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, well, let's stay with the future of space exploration. NASA is currently funding research at Oregon State University. It seems straight out of a sci-fi movie. Scientists have figured out, get this, how to grow potatoes on the moon. Joe Ranieri from our Portland affiliate explains how this could be an important discovery for future lunar missions.
This project is all about NASA's Artemis program, which is taking place right here in Corvallis. They're focusing on a long presence on the moon. Researchers here are learning how to grow food in harsh moon conditions, which is going to be critical for astronauts who are expected to land on the moon over the next several years.
This is what I plan on harvesting today.
Inside this lab at Oregon State University, David Handy, a space biologist, is tackling one of the biggest challenges of living on the moon: how to grow food where there's no real soil.
On the moon, we have what's called regolith, which is basically a dirt that is completely lacking in any kind of biomatter.
Unlike soil on Earth, the material on the surface of the moon contains none of the organic materials plants normally need to survive. So Handy and his team use a mix of crushed minerals and volcanic ash so it would be similar to the Earth's surface.
And so think of like a very fine silt that you end up with. And so it compacts a lot. It's electrostatically charged, so it tends to cling a lot.
So what Handy and his team decided to do?
We did an experiment where we simply added some worm compost. And that, by the time we had 30% by volume compost mixed in, the plants were identical to our Earth soil controls.
That experiment turned out dozens of spuds, and they discovered adding compost made a huge difference.
I thought it was a perfect crop to choose for different reasons. One, everybody eats potatoes. We eat them as French fries in many different ways.
The second reason behind using potatoes for this NASA-funded research project?
On Earth, it grows in pretty much every place on Earth. Different latitude, different altitude. There's just very few places where you can't grow potatoes.
Now they hope this experiment will be taking this team and this starchy veggie to new heights.
That was fascinating. Thanks to Joe Ranieri for that report.
Let's get to the latest on Wall Street, including some more tough news for America's prospective home buyers.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch has our Money Minute. Hey, Emily.
Hey, guys. Good morning. That's right. Following a fresh sign of stubborn inflation in the latest Consumer Price Index report, mortgage rates are rising. According to Mortgage News Daily, the 30-year fixed rate currently sits at 6.57%. That's up from 6.42% just last week. Meanwhile, Zillow says the refinance rate has jumped to 6.79%, 18 basis points higher than the average last week. That means it's going to cost more for those looking to borrow to purchase a new home or change their existing mortgage. And Netflix is expanding its sports lineup. The streaming giant is going to have more NFL games this season, including holiday games on Thanksgiving and Christmas, and also the first regular game for the season in Australia, with the Los Angeles Rams and San Francisco 49ers facing off. As Netflix dives further into the sports arena, the two organizations say they plan to continue to work together until the 2029 to 2030 season. And to celebrate 20 years of Spotify, the music streaming service is tapping into listeners with Spotify 20, your party of the year, helping people learn more about their history on the app. All users have to do is search Spotify 20, and they can learn more about things like the first song they listened to, when they became a member, and which artist it is they truly love the most. Users can also check out a new playlist curated just for them with their seemingly favorite 120 songs.
Oh, I'm so into this.
Yeah. Have you guys done it yet?
No. This is the first time hearing of it.
I did. I joined in October 2018, which I'm kind of surprised by. And I listen to Grateful Dead the most, which is just not surprising to me. I always have it on in the background.
We have a Deadhead in the house. All right.
Yeah, it's good background music too, you know.
Okay.
So that's a lot of good stuff in there. You guys got to check it out.
I'll go back and listen to like each year's top playlist a lot when you're like working out and you're like, what am I going to listen to? So that sounds amazing. Like a curation of all of it.
I haven't checked out the 120 yet. I'm curious about that.
That's really cool. Thanks, Emily.
Coming up, our own Tom Yamas is hard at work covering President Trump's visit to China, but he did find a little time to show us a different side of the People's Republic.
When we come back, we are digging into one of the world's most vibrant new food scenes by eating like a Beijing local. That's up next. Welcome back. While President Trump's state visit puts the global spotlight on Beijing, nightly news anchor Tom Yamas got a chance to step away from the day's political headlines to experience another side of the city, the vibrant food scene.
From imperial-style burgers to a famous breakfast dish that maybe few outsiders can stomach, he checked out some of the locals' favorite food stops. Here's Tom's food tour.
Deep inside the Second Ring Road, in the heart of Beijing, we're on the hunt for China's delicacies. At a cost of around $10 US, we're gonna eat, explore, and try dishes like these.
It's almost like a chopped steak.
Showing us the way, our food guide, Kelly Zhang.
So Beijing style is the goal today?
Of course, because you're in Beijing now.
Our first stop, Lu Beijing Xiaobing, which translates to...
This is the burgers, and this is also the name for this restaurant.
That's right, a Chinese burger joint, but not like back home.
Maybe you order.
Of course.
Kelly orders dumplings, steamed buns, tofu pudding, the Beijing burger, and this thing, a fried dough stick known as youtiao, but you can call it
the Chinese churro.
Chinese churro. Okay.
We sit to feast. First up, the burger, a chopped steak between two sesame patties.
It's delicious.
We call it imperial beef burgers because in Asian China, only the royals can get access to beef.
The dumplings are delicious and came with a history lesson. Kelly tells me legend has it dumplings are meant to look like ears. In ancient China, they were used as a type of medicine.
Okay, and that's why it's shaped like an ear.
Yes.
The Chinese churro, a big winner.
This is a very local way to have the food.
It's very good.
From there, Kelly is on the move again to a 100-year-old food stall, serving up traditional Chinese snacks. And she lets me order.
Youbiang?
Our bag filled with fried pancakes glazed in brown sugar.
This is delicious. It's very good.
What I didn't realize was Kelly was just buttering me up for the ultimate food challenge, our final stop. This Michelin-rated restaurant called Insan Dozier. Kelly quietly orders something at the counter, bringing back something confusing. This traditional Beijing breakfast item, Dozier, is fermented mung bean juice. And you're not a legit local if you can't take this down.
There you go.
Spoiler alert, I cannot.
This is very tough to eat.
It's acquired taste.
It's a bitter, sour, pungent soup that Kelly tells me to try once more, but this time, the way most locals like it, with a dough ring and pickled vegetable. Second time wasn't a charm, but a meal I know I will never forget. Tom Yamas, NBC News.
All right. Now I want to try it. I bet I'll like it. All right.
Wow, that was quite the food tour. My goodness.
A little bit of everything. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.